the headquarters of a maritime product manufacturer near Kobe. Over on the display floor is their latest fish finder. The red shapes on the display show how big the school of fish is. You can also tell how far down the fish are.
This is our first fish finder.
This is the fish finder developed by the company in 1947. The device recorded the location of fish between the surface and the bottom of the sea onto paper. Our story begins in 1943. In a small fishing village in Nagasaki on Kyushu, a young man was hard at work. His name was Furuno Kiyotaka, age 22. Life wasn't easy for Furuno, the eldest of 10 siblings. He dropped out of middle school and started a contracting company that did electrical work on fishing vessels. Koike Muneyuki is the current vice president of the company that Furuno started. This is what he heard about that time.
His father was a school teacher, but that kind of salary, a teacher's salary, it wasn't quite enough to support a big family like the one that they had. Furuno Kiyotaka was the eldest sibling in middle school and decided to start a business.
Then one day, Furuno was working a job for a very successful fisherman. The man said something intriguing. I can tell where the fish are. Where there are bubbles, there are fish below. Fishing was different 80 years ago. There was no way to peer into the ocean and see where the fish were. Fishermen had to rely on their instincts and their experience. That made Furuno think. It's basically a gamble whether you get a catch. It would be great if you could tell where the fish were from the surface.
He wanted to do something about the inconsistent, unscientific methods that fishermen were using. Food was scarce after World War II. Protein was in high demand. That meant fish was a vital food source, and there was a need to improve efficiency.
That was how Furuno came up with the idea to make a fish finder. He readied himself for the path ahead. Furuno had started developing his idea. But how would he be able to locate fish from the surface? No one had made a finder before. Where would he start? A piece of Navy surplus equipment caught his eye, an echo sounder. The device measured the time it took for ultrasonic waves to bounce back from the ocean floor in order to determine the depth of the water. Could ultrasound be used to locate fish? Furuno went straight to an academic who was familiar with ultrasound. This is what he was told. Fish have a lot of water in them. Ultrasound won't bounce off fish.
I heard that in an experiment, they took some fish, minced the meat, and then they tried bouncing ultrasound off of it. But due to the high water content, apparently not much was reflected.
But Furuno remembered what that master fisherman had said. Where there are bubbles, there are fish below. Furuno spent days reading various research papers. In one of the papers, there was a mention of ultrasound reflecting off bubbles.
If there are air bubbles along the way, some of the ultrasonic waves will bounce back. This told him that as long as you can receive those waves, you can find the fish.
And so, using the echo sounder as a reference, Furuno began prototyping. And in April 1947, his first device was completed. Would the device actually be able to find fish? A practical test with the device installed on a ship was needed. Furuno recruited a fisherman he knew and got his younger brother Kyokata to go along on the ship.
Kiyotaka, the older brother, had come up with the idea. Kyokata, the younger one, would work closely with him, repeating experiments on the boat and getting the feedback needed to polish up the device. In order to prove the viability of their fish finder, a demonstration was needed.
For days, Kyokata was on the ship, studying the readouts to see whether fish could be detected. But the ship generated noise as it moved, and no fish were being found. Then, one day, about 1 hour after boarding, there was a faint shadow amidst the noise on the readout. "We got fish!" Kyokata alerted the fisherman right away, but he was shot down. "No, there are no fish around here."
The fisherman could be very conservative. There was a faint sign, but it wasn't trusted at first.
But Kyokata dug his heels in. "Trust me. Go back." They returned to the spot that had been recorded and lowered the net. Bingo! Many fish came up. It was a large school of sardines.
The sensitivity wasn't very high at the time, so it was just a faint shadow among the noise. To continue testing on the sea with just that took guts and passion.
And so, for the first time, Kyokata was able to catch fish using the fish finder. His face lit up with a smile aboard the ship. Kyokata continued testing the fish finder on the fishing vessel. As he stared at the paper readouts, he spotted a faint shadow once again. Kyokata raised the alarm. "A big school of fish!" The fisherman lowered the net straight away, but when he drew it up, the net was completely filled with round shapes. Jellyfish. "Your finder is a dud," the fisherman exclaimed, and tossed Kyokata overboard.
Apparently, the device was called fake and a dud, and he got thrown into the sea. The performance wasn't so stable back then. That made it hard to tell whether the readout indicated fish or not.
The problem was the sensitivity of the device. It needed to better receive the reflected waves, or else it wouldn't accurately detect fish. The Furuno brothers dedicated themselves to improving the fish finder. they installed new parts and tried many times to boost the sensitivity of the receiver.
They approached development with passion and sincerity. Even if they got tossed off the ship, they kept coming back to try again and again.
In May 1949, a revised model with 10 times the sensitivity was completed. But when they asked fishermen to test it, they were told, no, fish aren't caught by machines. However, there was one captain who said yes, one who was famous locally for having the smallest catch among all the fishermen. Masuda Tomiichiro. Masuda had previously asked Furuno for some electrical work. He remembered the fine job that Furuno had done and agreed to help with the test. Kyokata quickly installed the fish finder onto the ship, but the man in charge of fishing was deeply offended. You saying our low ranking is because of me? Well, I quit. Kyokata ended up on the ship without the lead fisherman. Desperate, he made a bold move. He drilled a hole in the center of the ship's underside for the transceiver. It was part of his plan to increase the sensitivity as much as possible.
If you install it on the side of the ship, the bubbles created by the ship's movement get picked up. The underside of the ship has fewer bubbles, and placing it in the center gives it some protection from other noise. That would be the best spot for it.
And then it was time to go fishing. The ship traveled full speed ahead. The fish finder was switched on. They ventured far out in search of fish, but the readout remained blank. There was no sign of any fish.
At the time, there wasn't a 100% guarantee you'd find fish. You could say it was like radioing someone really far away. You might just barely hear a voice among the noise.
Things weren't looking good. Kyokata was crushed. And that was when it happened. Shadows suddenly appeared on the readout. There's fish! The net was cast immediately. If it was jellyfish again, it would all be over. Kyokata held his breath as he stared at the surface. The water was teeming with life. It was a large school of sardines and horse mackerel. For days after, the ship with the smallest catch continued to break records.
That ship ended up with the #1 catch in the area. By working together, the brothers were able to make something that made a difference in the world. I think they both were very proud of their device.
The fish finder had been invented by the Furuno brothers, and people were finally taking notice of its value.